All right, everybody, welcome back to the Horn Takes podcast, your very rough around the edges Texas sports talk destination. I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Friday Eve again, and it's opening day of Major League Baseball. We're excited about that. In Texas, it wouldn't be an opening day without talking trash with your friends, right? About, half your friends are Stro fans. Half your friends are Rangers fans. It's time to get those arguments and jabs. And I know all you guys have like these group texts where like half of the guys are Rangers fans, half of the guys are Stros fans. I know I do. And we will literally be picking at each other for the next, until October. We'll be picking at each other about it. So that's good. Good that we have that back. We can pick at each other about something else. We'll talk about those Hardwood Horns today, both brands. We'll talk about Texas baseball today. And we'll talk about the worst rules in sports. I saw a tweet, I don't know, maybe like earlier this week or probably earlier this week. I saw a tweet. Somebody tweets, what is the worst rule in sports? And you guys know I hate almost all rules because they don't enforce them. They don't enforce them correctly. I really hate the officials. But without the rules, we wouldn't need the officials. So it's kind of the rules' fault. So we'll talk about that today. The worst rules in sports. I got a couple of them. To me, they're like 1A, 1B, and there's a lot of other stuff that just doesn't make any sense to talk about. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. If you just like to listen to podcasts, you don't want to watch me, you don't want to watch videos, you don't care what I tweet, that's fine. Check me out at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. Go there, you can subscribe to the podcast. You get all the episodes. Maybe you drive around in your car all the time. Maybe you're on a plane all the time. And you need something to listen to because you've watched every single movie on the dadgum deal. I don't know. That's where you can find us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on iHeart. Check us out. Hardwood Horns. Let's talk about those ladies first because we should always talk about ladies first. And the ladies are still playing. 32-4 on the season. They're on to the Sweet 16 this weekend. Beat Drexel 82-42 in the first game of the tournament. I caught a little bit of that one just because I turned it on, see what was up. It was a beatdown. That game, I think like Texas had a 40-point lead like the second that game started, basically. And then they beat Bama in the round of 32. 65-54. I did not get a chance to see that one. Probably wouldn't have saw it anyway. There's other things going on the weekends that I gotta watch. But the ladies take care of business against Bama. Now they travel out to Portland, Oregon, where they'll take on the 4th seed Gonzaga. And I don't even know what Gonzaga's mascot is. I don't know. I know they're a 4 seed. That's going to be a weird time, 9 p.m. Friday night. I guess that's not weird. That's 7 o'clock West Coast time. Win that, and they face the winner of either the number 2 seed Stanford Cardinal or the number 3 seed NC State Wolfpack. I don't know if maybe there's a lady pack. Or maybe they're just like, we're going to be the Wolfpack. That's what we're going to do. So the ladies are looking really good. Really amazing what that team's been able to do since the injury of a very key player. I don't know her name. I just remember the moment of it, right? Like, I don't remember the details. I just know that it happened. A really key player for the Texas ladies basketball team tore her ACL early in the season. And the rest of the team has done a really good job of bouncing back and obviously playing really, really good basketball all the way through this season so far. So I know last year they got bumped in the second round. I think this is a team. This is a team that should be pressing for the Final Four. So we'll see what happens. Again, I'm just going to be completely honest. I will probably watch 0 of these games this weekend. If they play, so they play tomorrow night, which I assume means they would play Sunday if they advance. I might watch that because Texas baseball does not play this Sunday, so that might be something I could check out. Just depends. Major League Baseball just started. Let's go and wrap up this men's season. So the men finished the season 21-13, and by God, they played 2 of the ugliest basketball games I've ever seen in this tournament. I don't think I've seen basketball that ugly since my daughter was 10, 11, 12, somewhere right around in there. And she played basketball on an organized, city league team for the very first time ever. As a matter of fact, her only time. She gave it a shot. Wasn't her jam. But that was some ugly basketball. And I think those 2 tournament games, especially the round 1 game against Colorado State, I think that game was uglier than any of those games I watched my daughter in. They get the win over Colorado State 56-44. Colorado had 11 points. Colorado State had 11 points at halftime. 11. And to me, I think that's what's so interesting about these 2 ugly games they played. Normally, I don't know, maybe one of the guys listening, someone listening could help me out here. I feel like in football, you can have an ugly game and affect the other team and kind of force them into an ugly game. But I didn't. And again, I'm not a basketball expert. I've said that multiple times, hundreds of times, at least on this show. I'm not a basketball expert. So maybe you can do that in basketball. Maybe you can play so ugly that it makes the other team play ugly. I just kind of always have felt like in basketball, if you play ugly, you're just going to get your ass kicked. Like, you're just going to lose by a bunch because, statistics say, I don't know if they say, they say that you're not going to have 2 teams play ugly games like that together very often. It's just not going to happen. Most teams score baskets. Like, most teams can somewhat consistently score the ball. Texas has not been able to do that, and somehow maybe they just played really great defense. They kept Colorado State and Tennessee in check. It was a close loss to Tennessee. I mean, that was a game they could have easily won. They lost that game 62-58 to, I believe, Tennessee's a 2 seed. That game was 28-19 Tennessee at halftime. So again, not a lot of scoring. And Texas kind of got themselves back in it. Looked like they might have a shot. And then it got away from them. And, that's what happens when you just can't score. At all. Again, just an absolute sort of ugly game. I don't know if this Texas team could have uglied their way, deep into the tournament or not. I kind of feel like at some point you got to be able to make some baskets. So for me, not a disappointing thing at all. I like a small part of me thought, man, Texas might even just lose in this first round. Like, they might not even advance to play a second game in this tournament. So getting to the second round, and for the most part, I say the game was competitive. It was close. I don't know how competitive, the actual results that were happening on the court over and over again were for Texas, but they competed. They stayed in the game with a pretty good, a pretty good Tennessee team, coached by an ex-Texas Longhorn coach. He's Rick Barnes. He knows what he's doing. He's been around the block. What can you say? I I think as a Texas basketball fan, that was about as good as anybody was going to see out of this Texas team in the postseason. So it is what it is. They got to regroup. Rumor mill is Dylan Mitchell is going to transfer. Dylan Mitchell, ex-5-star recruit. There's been a lot of interesting discussion on Dylan Mitchell and his possible transfer. I say possible. I don't know. It may have already come out that he's not. I just saw this the other day where there was a rumor. I don't even know where the rumor came from. So let's just be upfront. I'm not trying to spread rumors. I'm just telling you guys. I just thought it was interesting because Dylan Mitchell is an interesting Texas Longhorn player because Dylan Mitchell was a absolute no-brainer 5-star supposedly coming out of high school. Long, athletic. I think I heard he could shoot. But that has not translated. A lot of the things that I think he was probably so good at in high school and in USSSA or whatever he was playing. He was playing on some travel teams, I'm sure. They just didn't. They just have not translated at all to Texas. Now he's gotten better, I think. Like his freshman year, I think he averaged like maybe 4 points a game, and I think he's averaging like 10 points a game or close to 10 points a game this season. So he's gotten better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the kid is not good. I'm not saying he doesn't have a future. I'm just saying he was like a bona fide one and done first round draft pick type, according to all the smart people coming out of high school. And it just hasn't happened. And so the questions are like, is it development? Is it, I just feel like Dylan Mitchell has never looked confident. He's never looked comfortable offensively at this level. He just does not have, it's like he doesn't fit into anything. Yeah, he's going to give you a high flying dunk every once in a while, like and really athletic, where you go, holy shit, this dude is for real. He's going to give you that, but you get the ball in his hands. He can't really do anything with it except pass it. He's not big enough and strong enough to play down low. He can't create shots. He can't make shots consistently. He's just not the offensive weapon that I think most of these experts that look at these kids in high school thought he would be at this level. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to transfer or not. I don't even know. I don't think you ever want to lose a guy. I think he's played really well on defense. He's definitely been a good defender. He can block shots. He can get rebounds. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what Dylan Mitchell decides to do if he's deciding anything. Again, rumors get started all the time. I don't know that this rumor has any teeth. And again, I don't know where it even came from. Message board fodder. Possibly. Could be. But also could be like, some smoke to the fire, right? So yeah, man, men's basketball, just not a great season. Plagued by injuries. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of organization about what they do. They just kind of go. You see, they just come down, like they just start jacking up threes. Like inexplicably, they just start throwing up threes. And it's always a dude like Cunningham. Why is Cunningham throwing up threes? Why is Dessou throwing up threes? I know he worked on it and supposedly got really good. He's hit some this year. Don't get me wrong. So, yeah, basketball for the men is over. The women win a couple games. You're in the Final Four. That would be pretty sweet for those ladies. Texas baseball. Man, what an up and down year it has been so far for Texas baseball. This team is 15-10 as of today. They're 4-2 in Big 12 play. They start off Big 12 play, headed up to Lubbock. They win 2 of 3 from Texas Tech. And you're like, man, yeah, There we go. Because Tech was highly ranked. Highly. I mean, like the top 20 team. And they went up there and handled Tech pretty well up in Lubbock. So I think a lot of Texas fans were like, all right, here we go. And then they come home against Washington and lose 2 of 3. And I'm telling y'all, folks, I think I was watching that Sunday game. You know how you can just feel momentum? You can just feel the momentum shift. The momentum 100% had shifted to Washington late in that game 3 when they ran out of time due to the curfew. They ended up winning the game by 1. I'm not sure that Washington doesn't figure out a way to sweep Texas at home. So then they head into this Baylor series. Lose the first game. Kind of in just a really shitty way. I mean, they went into extra innings. But they had the bases juiced in the first inning with no outs. And could only plate a run. They had the bases juiced in the 8th inning with no outs. And could only plate a run. Because they just can't put the ball in play. Like when they need to, they just cannot put the ball in play. So they ended up losing that one. I think the game went 11 innings. And then they take the next 2 from the Bears. Sunday's game, not competitive at all. Saturday's game, I may be having them switched up. One of them was not competitive. The other one was maybe semi. Actually, neither one of them were really all that competitive. One of them was just an absolute ass whipping. But I think the biggest takeaways from the Baylor series, to me, is I feel like the rotation is set. We've been talking about it for a while. Like who can David Pierce depend on in this pitching staff? How do we get some decent starting pitching? Like, how do we get some guys that can get us some innings? Because early in the season, up until a couple of weeks ago, the starting pitching was averaging 3 1/3 innings per outing for Texas. And you're just not going to get a lot done there. You got limited bullpen. You don't have a ton of arms. You got to play 3 games in a row. You're not going to win a lot of games. Or you're not going to, maybe you win a lot of games, but you're not going to be very competitive. You're not going to be the best you can be. I know I keep moving the goalposts. You're not going to be as competitive if you can't get anything more than 3 1/3 out of your starters. And a lot of that number was skewed by some pretty good LBJ starts. So they were struggling. I mean, they were having starting pitching that could not get past the first inning. They get out of the first inning, but then they were done. That happened a couple times earlier this season. So man, getting the rotation set was a big deal. And I think they got it done. Boogie Whitehead comes in on Saturday with 9 innings complete game. Just a beaut, man. He only gives up 6 hits, 2 runs, 5 Ks, only 1 walk, and I think that's important. Because one of the things that has plagued this Texas pitching staff is walks and hit batsmen. And then Max Grubbs goes 7 innings on Saturday for a win. So they got 7 out of LBJ Friday night. They got 9 out of Boogie Whitehead on Saturday. 7 out of Max Grubbs on Sunday. Grubbs only gives up 5 hits and 1 run, 5 Ks, only 1 walk in that game. So really good outings. And then offensively, Max Ballou just absolutely goes off. Goes 6 for 12 on the weekend with 7 RBI, 3 home runs on Sunday, 2 solo shots and a grand slam. And the grand slam was the weakest, was the cheapest of them all. And it wasn't really cheap at all. He absolutely murdered his second home run. He hit that thing completely over the center field wall and the retaining wall that's just supposed to keep home runs from getting out into the street. And he hit the damn thing all the way over both of those. His first home run was a shot just to the left of the big green wall in center field. Nearly took out the camera guy. And then his grand slam, he got a little bit under it. But I mean, he hit it really hard. His exit velo, and I hate saying that. I hate saying exit velo. I'm gonna back up. Exit velocity. I get so tired of hearing about exit velo and launch angle. It's like in football when they talk about going tempo. Oh, they're going a little tempo. Tempo is not a thing like that. You can't go a little tempo. Tempo is like a measurement. Anyway. What was I saying? Oh, his exit velocity. I think on the first two home runs it was above 108 miles an hour on both of them. I think the second one was 109. The first one was 108. I don't know what the exit velocity was on the third one. But he's hitting the ball hard. So overall, you get the series win in conference. That was like their 6th straight conference series win. That's a positive thing. And then they come into this midweek against Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and they get their asses handed to them 4-1. Cole Sauve gets the start, 2 innings, gives up a 3-run home run in the second, which ultimately ended up being the difference in the game. And then it was kind of like an all-hands-on-deck thing from a pitching perspective the rest of the night. They had 6 more pitchers, and those 6 more pitchers only gave up 1 run. So the guys that came in out of the bullpen actually did a pretty decent job. Really good job. I mean, we're not going to call it pretty decent. They did a good job. Offensively in that game, 5 hits in 31 at-bats. Thomas, Powell, and Flores were 3 for 10 with 1 RBI. And Ballou was 0 for 4 in this game. So Ballou, young guy, he's a sophomore. The power is certainly there. Like the physical attributes are there. You'd like to see, and I know sometimes 0-4 is just going to happen. Sometimes 0-4 happens when you're peppering the ball. Like you can knock the piss out of the ball 4 times and go 0-4. That is the what am I trying to say here? That's the bitch about baseball is you can do everything right and still have a piss poor, night at the plate. Statistically, right? But you'd like to see these guys be a little more consistent. 1 for 4, 2 for 4. It's all right. But that's a rough loss. That is a bad loss. Like Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, not even a good baseball program. They should never, and I don't even care who you're playing in your lineup on that midweek. That's a team that should never come into your house and beat you the way they beat them. So I feel like I'm so up and down on this Texas team. I'm trying to remain like neutral and positive and just sort of like, there's some more baseball to be played. That's what I keep trying to tell myself. And I think it's because like I'm a pretty like, logical person. I feel like, there's good things about this team. And then there's some really bad things about this team. But when they play good, when the good things are coming out, it's really, really good. And when, conversely, obviously, when the bad things happen, it's bad. It's really bad. So I don't know. I think the pitching is coming along. We talked about it last week. I said, man, I think, we've been talking about for the last few weeks, Pierce trying to find his rotation. You got to get some guys and consistently say these are the guys. You just can't keep picking new starters every weekend. That's not how it works. I guess you can, but I think if you do that, nobody knows what their role is, and everybody feels like if they make a mistake, their role's going to change. And I don't think that's a good environment to be in. So he had to kind of figure this out from a pitching perspective. And we kind of said last week, like, man, we feel like Boogie Whitehead and Max Grubbs, they've had some good outings here lately. We said we like to see those guys get a start this weekend. And by God, if they didn't, and they freaking did really, really well. Those two guys gave Texas 16 really good innings. The starters altogether pitched 23 of 27 innings. Okay, 23 of 30 innings if you count the extra innings. 23 of 29 innings if you count the extra innings on Friday night. That's a big turnaround from what they had been doing. Now we just got to see if they can consistently just have good outings. It doesn't have to be great. I mean, Boogie Whitehead is not going to go 9 innings every single start. We all know that. But 7 innings, 6 innings, that's good. That is good starting pitching. And if they can stay consistently in that 6 to 7 inning range, not put so much pressure on that bullpen, I think there's a chance that this could be a pretty good pitching staff from here on out. We didn't see Witt at all this weekend. We haven't seen him in 14 days coming up the other day. And, I asked the question. I went on to Horn 247 and it's just like, did I miss something about Witt? Like, is he hurt? He hadn't pitched in 14 days, and I didn't get an answer. I did get an answer, but it was like, it's hard, whatever. It really wasn't an answer. And it wasn't from someone on the staff at Horns 247 either, by the way. It was just another poster, which is fine. I love those interactions as well. But, yeah, what's going on with Witt? Well, it turns out he's out indefinitely. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't know what exactly. But David Pierce announced yesterday or the day before that he's out indefinitely. Don't know if he'll be back. I have a bad feeling he's not going to be back, and I don't think he's going to be back at the University of Texas at all. That's just my gut feeling. I don't have any information to back that up. I don't think he's going to play. I will kind of get on a hill and say Witt won't pitch the rest of this season. The article I read said something along the lines of it was something that they missed during the original surgery, not necessarily something directly involving the UCL, which is that ligament in the elbow that these guys tear up and have to get Tommy John surgery. But there's something. So maybe like some bone spurs. It sounds like he's having another surgery, is what it sounds like. And that's just speculation. I have not seen that, so don't go run with that and say, hey, Tanner Witt's having surgery. This dude said it. Because that's not what I'm saying. Just saying that's what it sounds like. Context clues. Contextually, that's what it seems like is happening to Tanner Witt. So that's rough, man. That poor guy, man. Honestly, like, I can't imagine. His freshman year, and it wasn't perfect, but you could definitely tell, like, that dude kind of had he definitely had the stuff. And he had it mentally in a lot of cases. Tanner Witt did his freshman year at Texas. And you just hate to see a kid with that kind of talent, that kind of attitude, that kind of moxie, kind of get himself in a situation like this where he just can't get his arm right. Unfortunately for pitchers, if you can't get your arm right, it's rough. So we wish Tanner all the best of luck. I don't know. I don't know what all that's going to look. I just don't think he's going to pitch the rest of this season. And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if he doesn't pitch the rest of this season, that's basically 3 years removed. Yeah, 3 years removed from his former self, right? Now, I just don't know. That's a tough bounce back. I won't say he can't do it, but that will be a tough bounce back. You look at this team to this point in the season offensively, it's feast or famine. It's a home run hitting team. I mean, if they're not hitting home runs, this team's not going to string together a bunch of hits to get runs in the old-fashioned way. Not going to see a lot of small ball. We did see it the other day. I was really surprised. 0-2 with Schussler at the plate, and Schussler is a catcher. You wouldn't think he'd be a guy that's bunting anyway. He attempted early in the at-bat, lays down an 0-2 bunt. I want to say that was against Baylor Friday night. I'm probably way off on that, but anyways, you will see it very rarely, the small ball stuff out of David Pearson's squad. But they hit the ball a ton. Like up and down that lineup, there's a lot of power. It's just inconsistent power. You got 6 regulars in the lineup that are over 300, which is the mark. The team batting average is just a tick below 300. It's the first time it's been below 300, at least in a few weeks. Jarrett Thomas leads all hitters in average with 416, or with a 416 batting average. So you got Schussler, Powell, Galvan, Ballou, Flores all hitting 300 or above. And then from there, it's starting to cool off a little bit. Will Gasparino, who was hitting – Will Gasparino for a long time was in the mid-300s. He started to cool off a little bit. He's dipped below 300 now. That's a kid, man, that has a lot of potential, obviously. When he gets a hold of it, he hits it hard. He's got speed. He's big. I think he's going to be a really great baseball player. It's just going to take him some time to get it figured out. Hitting a ball hard is one thing. Like, being able to hit it is a different thing. And I think that's what struggle Will Gasparino is having right now. It's easy to get fooled at this level. He'll work all that out. O'Dowd and Brown just continue to struggle. O'Dowd is now, I mean, we were talking about it last week. O'Dowd and Brown had gotten themselves up over 200. They'd chipped away at that really, 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 really bad start for both of them. And now O'Dowd is kind of falling back. Brown is still in the mid 200s range, maybe low to mid 200s range. But O'Dowd is back under 200. And, man, I don't know. I don't know at what point does David Pierce kind of look at it and go, I got to get some of these younger guys some at-bats, because O'Dowd's not coming back. And he's not really helping you. At what point do you cut your law? And, man, baseball coaches are the funniest coaches, because they do not like to stray away from their lineups. It is, once they decide these are the 9 guys I'm batting, generally, you don't see a lot of mix up with that. I mean, sometimes you see it. We saw it last year with the kid, I can't remember his name. The kid that played shortstop, came in as a second baseman, started as a freshman, had a really good season his freshman year at the plate. I can see his face. I just can't think of his name. He's from Alabama. He transferred to Kentucky. I know everything about this kid except his freaking name. He got benched late last year when he was just struggling hard at the plate. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if we see a changeup with O'Dowd. And then, you look at this team, I think the jury's still out, man. I said it a little bit earlier. They do a lot of things really well. They do some stuff really bad. When everything's going well, they're a great-looking team. They look like a team that could make a run into the tournament and find themselves at the College World Series. I think the talent exists for this group of kids to go do that. When it's bad, it looks like they might not even make the tournament, period. It looks like they might be an early exit out of a regional that they're not hosting, period, when things are going bad. So to me, it's kind of like, does this team stay inconsistent and we just don't know what the hell we're going to see? Or do they find a way to either start leaning more to the positive, or maybe they fall back and And some of those bad things continue to show up consistently. I guess the question is, are they going to ever be a consistent team, whether it's good or bad? Or are they just going to be consistently inconsistent, and Texas fans are just going to have to go, man, I don't know what the hell this team's going to do. I mean, either one matters, I guess. The season's going to play out how the season plays out, but it's tough. Like if you're sitting in my chair and you're trying to go, man, what could this team do? It's tough to do that because it changes. It changes so wildly, in just a few games. Big series this weekend with Kansas State up in Manhattan. Kansas State ranked 23rd, sitting on top of the Big 12 at 5-1. Got Oklahoma at number 2 with 7-2 record. And then, of course, Texas is third with a 4-2 record. They start tonight up in Manhattan, 6 p.m. They play Friday at 6 p.m., and then they play Saturday at 2 p.m. All these games are on the Longhorn Radio Network. As far as I know, you will not be able to watch any of these games, which is a tragedy. So we'll just have to listen. Maybe we get Craig Way. I've been hearing some Mike Hardball Harge on the radio calling some Texas games. I think he probably told me he called Texas games, but I didn't even realize it. I mean, like, I don't know. It just didn't. So our son plays baseball, so I wear a little headphone thing. If he's got games, I have a little earbud in, and I'll just listen to the Texas games. And the other day, I was like, holy shit, that's Mike. We've had Mike on the show a few times. We will definitely continue to have Mike Hardball Harge on the show. He's got a show on 1300 AM The Zone, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. Y'all should check that out. A lot of cool guests on that show. Harge does a good job, so check that out for sure. But yeah, man, he's calling some of the games lately with Craig Way. So that's how you'll have to listen to him, and that's a good way. If Craig Way's calling it, man, that is a good way to listen to a Texas baseball game. So that's the story on Texas baseball. I don't have a fucking clue what they're going to do. We'll find out, man. They might. I mean, I could see this team like they could do anything from sweep Kansas State to get swept themselves, and none of it would surprise me. All right, folks, worst rules in football, worst rules in sports. Number one, the number one all-time worst rule in sports is the targeting rule in football. It is completely subjective. I know that there are metrics or things that they're supposed to be looking at to say whether it's a targeting or not. And there's different situations, and there's different sort of metrics that go along with different situations. I know all that stuff exists, but a human is the person looking at that and deciding whether those things happened or not. And we all seem to have a different perception of reality. So I hate any rule that is completely subjective, and I think 100% targeting is completely subjective. Next, it penalizes the defense for their actions and the offensive players' actions. How many times have we seen this? Wide receiver catches the ball, turns upfield, sees the defensive back who's already started to make a motion to tackle. You know, low man wins in football, right? We've heard this our entire lives. If you've been around football, low man wins. So these guys are trying to come in low and make a tackle. And the offensive player sees it at the last second, ducks into it. The defensive player's helmet collides with their helmet, and there's a targeting penalty on the defense. How many times have we seen that? Hundreds, probably thousands of times we have seen that. I get throwing a flag on it, right? I get saying we're going to go review it even if you didn't throw a flag on it. I do not understand how you can watch a replay and see that sequence of events and either uphold a targeting call on the defender or just decide we're going to give a targeting call to the defender that we didn't call originally. I don't understand that. The defensive player cannot be responsible for what the offensive player does with his or her head, body, whatever. You just can't. You cannot expect people to control other people's heads. And the most ridiculous thing about it is offensive players duck their heads and use them as a weapon all the freaking time. And they never get called for targeting. Next, it's no longer enforcing the spirit of what the original rule was put in place to enforce. This rule was like put in place to combat like the headhunting days. The headhunting days in defensive backfields where safeties and cornerbacks were just teeing off on offensive players. Completely helpless offensive players. We're talking like forearm shivs, helmets directly to helmets right under the face mask. Lots of dangerous plays, right? Like people get hurt bad because of those types of plays. That's what targeting was for. Blatant attacks to the head and neck area on defenseless players. But this shit that's happening today that so many times is called targeting and enforced as targeting and puts people at the collegiate level out of the game, they're just football plays. They're two fast dudes, two strong, fast guys running as fast as they can at an incredible rate. One of them's got to tackle the other one because that's the fucking point of the game. Like the defense has to tackle the offense or they score, right? Which means there has to be physical contact between those two people. Sometimes they're going to butt heads. That's just it. That is the simple fact. One guy's trying to score. One guy's trying to keep the guy from scoring. So he has to physically attack him. And guess what, folks? Your body can't go anywhere that your head doesn't go. So your head's going to be involved in a lot of tackles. Sometimes they're going to hit. And there should not be a penalty on the defense every fucking time those two guys' heads hit. I'm all for safety, man. I really am. Like, I'm not one of these, football is a blood sport, gladiatorial thing. I'm not one of those guys. But we have swung so far from that, like it's ridiculous. Fix targeting. Like, rewrite the rule. Do whatever you got to do. You're on the verge of like ruining football with all this targeting nonsense. There was a game last year, Mississippi State and LSU. The defensive back did a perfect form tackle. He did it just the way you're taught in junior high. He put his face mask into Jaden Daniels' chest and tackled him. And not only did they throw a flag for targeting, they upheld it. Because I guess the top of his helmet grazed Jaden Daniels' face mask. I can't get with that. I can't support that. Y'all got to fix that. The other most stupid rule in sports is the batter has to avoid getting hit while he's in the batter's box. I know we've seen this. You've seen this where the pitcher hits the batter, and because the batter did not make an attempt to get out of the way, it's a dead ball, and he does not get to take a base. No, you've seen it. It's mostly in college. I don't even know if that's a rule in the Major League Baseball, but it certainly is in college. Why is that a thing? Isn't it the pitcher's job to not hit the batter? Isn't there a penalty for the defensive team when the pitcher hits the batter? Yeah, there is. The batter gets to take a base. The batter's job is to hit the ball. Right? So how? Why does the batter have to do half the pitcher's job, which is don't hit the batter? Why does he got to make sure he doesn't get hit by the pitcher that can't throw the ball over the plate, or at least not into him? It is the most absurd rule I've ever seen. Now, I'm reasonable on this. I know a lot of batters sneakily lean in. I know a lot of these guys wear all this shit, body armor stuff everywhere. I say get rid of all that crap. You don't need an elbow pad. You don't need a shin pad. You don't need any of that shit. Get your ass in there. And if you want to hunch over the plate and hold your ground and get hit, that's on you, boy. But you shouldn't be armed. You shouldn't be armored up for that. And you certainly shouldn't be able to lean into pitches. We've seen it. We've all seen that too, where they lean in and get hit and they act all crazy like they didn't do it. I'm reasonable, but that's a dumbass fucking rule. Like, if the pitcher hits the batter shouldn't have to move at all. That's his batter's box. I'm not as passionate about this one because, for one, they just don't call it that often. And I don't think them calling it's on the verge of ruining the game. But it's still pretty bad and illogical and stupid. And I hate that kind of crap. I hate bad, illogical, stupid stuff. Check us out next week. We'll talk some more Texas baseball. We'll catch up on these Lady Horns in their quest for a college basketball national championship. Maybe this softball team will do some amazing shit. By the way, the girls have been playing awesome. Softball team's been doing great. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe. Won't cost you guys a thing. I sure would appreciate the support. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. Thanks for those of you, Sean Too Fitted, who checked out the Twitter stream today. Tell your friends, man. Yeah, we'll all get on here. We'll start getting crazy. You guys have a good weekend. Get hooked.